commander of the Tiwakan army makes his marriage proposal to the princess of Nauk castle. Sir Weraz quickly asks her to confirm that she won't accept it, calling the Tiwakan savages who don't understand anything about human decency. He also talks about how bold the commander is to propose when he already knows she has a worthy suitor waiting for her. Princess answers that she really doesn't have any other choice, and everyone knows they don't have the strength to push the Tiwakan army away. But the commander insists they still can defend themselves, adding that he has already risked his life for her. She explains to him that it's been half a month since the Tiwakan army surrounded the castle under the excuse of making a proposal. Even though it's only been 2 weeks, their supply routes were cut off a long time ago. Food and water have run out, her people are tired and worn down, and even the guards have lost their fighting spirit. She also points out that the Tiwakan, their enemy, are the most savage and ruthless mercenaries in history, so terrifying that no nation dares to stand up to them. Even Leaks, the largest kingdom on the continent, was forced to its knees and had to sign a humiliating peace treaty with them. To the Tiwakan, a tiny, falling-apart kingdom like hers is just a game, a rabbit hunt for their entertainment. Since fighting back is hopeless, and it won't be long before everyone inside starves to death, she decides to accept the proposal. Sir Weraz and the man beside him are surprised by her decision, but she points out that the commander wouldn't have proposed if he planned to kill them all in one night. The man beside Weraz pushes further, clearly upset that the princess is even considering the Tiwakan commander's offer. He reminds her of Kleinfelter and the reason for his absence. According to him, Kleinfelter, the one who truly loves her, the one who values her more than his own life, had made a solemn vow. He had promised to travel to the kingdom of Shurka and return with reinforcements within 10 days. However, that promise has already expired. The days have passed and there has been no word from him. Even Shurka, known for its strength and political influence, remains silent and unmoving. Despite being the most powerful family in Nauk, they have done nothing but watch from a distance. With all that in mind, the man urges the princess to cut ties with the Tiwakan and sit for a proper discussion instead. But the princess gently refuses, explaining that there is nothing left to discuss. No amount of talking will change their current situation, and they have run out of time to keep waiting for a miracle. She adds that she has already prepared her response to the Tiwakan leader, especially if saying yes could possibly save what is left of Nauk. Some hours later, just outside the fortress walls of Nauk Castle, Sir Weraz grumbles about the delay in the meeting. He finds it disrespectful that anyone would arrive late to a proposal and remarks bitterly that manners must be completely foreign to men like these, as foreign as civilization itself. Princess Liene, standing beside him, tries to lighten the mood by pointing out that at least the delay gives her more time to mentally prepare herself. As she waits, she reflects quietly on a chilling legend. Tiwakan, the commander, was born from a mortal woman and the god of war himself, when the god took her by force. It is said that the god of death cursed his very existence and that even the earth refused to accept his flesh. As a result, he was condemned to live in a body that could never die on the battlefield. Despite that dark past, the princess decides not to show any fear. She knows this meeting is more than just a marriage proposal, it is a political negotiation. She silently vows not to give in too easily, no matter what the man demands. Suddenly, both she and Weraz hear the distant clash of swords and the cries of soldiers. Weraz instantly recognizes the sound of battle and assumes that Kleinfelter must have finally returned. Princess can hardly believe what she is hearing. Weraz then adds that Kleinfelter seems to have brought reinforcements just as promised, and is now launching an attack on the Tiwakan army. Hearing this, she asks if it means she no longer needs to go through with the proposal. Weraz confirms it but quickly urges that they get her to safety first. As she rushes away, she suddenly comes face to face with a man. He stops her and apologizes for his late arrival. She instantly recognizes him. He is the son of the god of war. He is massive, tall, and dark, with a presence that is impossible to ignore. He casually explains that he had urgent matters to deal with, then tells her to sit. Despite his polite tone, the princess reminds herself that just because this barbarian does not look or act like one, does not mean he is not dangerous. She greets him and calmly asks why he kept her waiting. The man replies that there had been an ambush. She acknowledges his explanation and remarks that it certainly counts as a more pressing matter, then suggests that they postpone their discussion for another time. However, he cuts in, stating that the situation has already been handled. He then gives an order and someone brings something forward. When the princess sees it, her thoughts immediately begin to swirl. It is Kleinfelter's sword. The man states that the ambush has been taken care of, and then asks her for her answer to his proposal. She responds coolly, saying that she would prefer him to show proper manners before she answers. She also says she does not understand why he felt the need to bring the sword but where she comes from. In Nauk, people do not bring out weapons when discussing something as sacred as marriage. He picks up the sword slowly, then flings it aside without a hint of hesitation. His voice is calm but firm as he tells her he meant no disrespect, that wasn't his intention at all. He says he only wanted to show her something important. He goes on to say that the man who wielded that sword must be the reason she's been turning down his proposal. But that man, he says, no longer exists. Then he looks her straight in the eyes and asks again what her answer is. She trembles. Her hands feel cold, and her heart races as she realizes something deeply unsettling. This man knows everything. He knows about the ambush. He knows who led it. Nothing escapes him. She had thought him just a brute with strength and a fancy title, but now she sees how wrong she was. He's far more dangerous than she imagined. He doesn't just want to marry her. He wants everything, her, the castle, her people, the entire kingdom of Nauk. She understands, with chilling clarity, that going through with this marriage would mean handing over everything she holds dear. She can't let that happen. But rejecting him outright might bring disaster. She has to find a way to escape this trap, one that won't cause more blood to spill. So, lifting her head slowly, she speaks with quiet strength. She tells him that the man who once owned that sword was not just anyone. He was her beloved. He responds with a low, knowing hum, confirming what he had already guessed. She prays silently, begging the gods to let him believe the lie she is about to tell. She continues, her voice steady. She says she has already shared a bed with her lover, and now she carries his child. Then she looks up at him again and asks if, knowing that, he still wants to go through with the proposal. Whereas, stunned by her words, calls her name. But she doesn't look back at him. Instead, she keeps speaking, her tone firm. She says that it's clear now, the only thing this man truly wants through this marriage is the right to claim dominion over Nauk. But he must understand that, no matter how things turn out between them, the one who will inherit the throne of Nauk will be her child. And that child carries no Tiwakan blood. There's a pause. He studies her, and then admits that the price is steeper than he had imagined. Still, he asks her, if he agrees to this, will she marry him? But before she can answer, he makes one more declaration. He tells her to go ahead and bear the child. Let the child be born. But she must know, no matter what, he will have her. Afterward, he extends his hand to her, offering to escort her. She hesitates and admits that she's not used to such gestures, but he assures her that she will become accustomed to them. She accepts, and he gently lifts her, placing her onto the horse with deliberate care. Noticing the scrape on her palm, he pauses, remarking on the injury with concern. He expresses regret and appreciation, grateful that she allowed him to offer his hand. He says he wishes to continue doing so again and again until the day they truly become one, until they are family in every sense. He leans in and kisses her hand, offering a parting promise that they will meet again. As he steps back, the man beside him finally speaks, barely hiding his disbelief. He demands to know what exactly his lord thinks he's doing, reminding him that the goal was to seize control of Nauk. He questions whether he was mistaken about their purpose. The lord calmly agrees that he is not wrong, but the man pushes further. He urges him to reconsider any leniency regarding the princess's heir, warning that a child born outside of wedlock could one day fracture the kingdom. According to him, the princess and her people are in no position to negotiate, they must accept whatever terms are given. But the lord's thoughts seem to wander in another direction. He admits that the princess is among the things he wishes to claim. This, the man stares, confused and suspicious. He asks if his lord truly desires a woman, especially when he's never been one to fall for appearances. The sudden shift seems out of character. The lord explains that while the proposal may appear as aggressive as a raid, it is not one made with force. If her heart belongs elsewhere, he has no intention of coercing her. As for the child, it doesn't concern him. The man finds it difficult to believe. He asks if his lord speaks this way because he has loved her for some time, questioning whether he is genuinely pursuing the princess. But the lord makes it clear, this is not about affection or longing. It's about claiming what is already his. The man pauses, wondering aloud if that what refers to Nauk. He thought his lord had intended to retire, to finally rest after years of relentless warfare. Why then would he fixate on such a barren, war-torn land? He continues talking, pressing for answers. But then the Lord calls him by name, Firmos, and sharply tells him to stop. If there's something worth knowing, he will be told in due time. Until then, he is to hold his tongue and not pry any further. Firmos nods, recognizing the warning, and says no more. Back at the palace, memories of Kleinfelter resurface. She recalls the moment he asked her to trust him. He admitted that while their engagement had been pushed by his uncle, his feelings for her were sincere. She had agreed to give him a chance, saying she would wait to see that sincerity even if it took her whole life. Now all she can do is say goodbye. Tears slip down her cheeks as she reflects on what they had. She never allowed him more than a kiss. Their relationship had been nothing more than a compromise, something forged out of necessity. Just as the House of Kleinfelter had seized royal authority and pressured her into engagement, she too had only seen their power as a tool. A means to protect her people. Still, she tries to comfort herself about the child, telling herself that there will surely be a way to keep the truth hidden. But deep down she wonders, can she really deceive that man? Her thoughts are cut short when Mashallo calls her name. He asks if she's paying attention and she quickly says she is, prompting him to continue. He reports that they've managed to secure enough supplies to last 3 months. It was only possible because he cut down every non-essential expense. She lets out a small sigh of relief. Mashallo urges her to stop being so stubborn and raise the taxes. He insists that they can't keep surviving like this. But she pushes back. She doesn't want to burden the people further. Instead, she wants to find another solution. After all, a drought that dragged on for over 2 decades won't simply end in a day. She had hoped that at the very least, this year's trade deals would allow everyone to eat 3 times a day. But then the Tiwakans came and surrounded them, and everything changed. Now, she thinks perhaps agreeing to the proposal wasn't such a terrible decision. Without it, their situation could have turned even more desperate. Still, Mashallo argues that her decision was hasty. He believes she should have consulted the Kleinfelter family first. She tells him that she'll speak with them about the arrangements. Mashallo mentions that the royal family will likely observe an official mourning period since Kleinfelter was their heir. She considers this. Even though it may be seen as disrespectful to her new fiancé, she knows she must speak to Lord Tiwakan about it. Mashallo scoffs at the idea of showing respect to savages, and says that the Grand Chancellor will definitely be furious over everything. No doubt, Grand Chancellor Lyndon Kleinfelter must already be livid with how things have turned out. He had likely intended to exploit Nauk by orchestrating his nephew's engagement to the princess, only for everything to collapse before his eyes. Even after draining so much from the kingdom, his greed had remained unquenched. His ambitions were boundless, insatiable, relentless. And now all that effort was reduced to ash. Meanwhile, the man finishes delivering his report. He bows slightly, preparing to leave, but not before offering a word of warning. He states that overlooking the Kleinfelter family would come at a steep cost. Their legacy, he reminds her, is deeply rooted in Nauk's history, woven into the very fabric of the kingdom since the reign of the Kate King. He urges her to keep that in mind. Then he turns and walks away, his footsteps echoing faintly down the corridor. Left alone in the quiet, she lets out a slow breath. She reflects that moments of crisis rarely earn respect in political circles. Dignity is a fleeting luxury in a time like this. A few minutes pass. She stands before her mirror, uncertain about what to wear. As she debates between fabrics and colors, she becomes aware of something unsettling. She's trying to dress in a way that would please Lord Tiwakan. The thought disturbs her. Kleinfelter is gone, and yet here she is, worrying about appearances for a man she does not love. The realization stings. Dawns on her with undeniable clarity that she had been a selfish, detached lover to Kleinfelter right up until the bitter end. She pulls on a gown, letting the fabric fall around her. As she fastens it, she hears quiet sniffles from the corner of the room. She turns and sees her old nanny wiping tears from her eyes. Concerned, she calls her closer. The older woman steps forward and explains between sobs that she searched far and wide to find the most elegant dresses possible. Then, with hesitation, she asks if the princess truly intends to go through with this, whether it is really necessary to welcome those barbarians. Princess remains calm and measured as she responds. She says that maintaining a degree of decorum is still important. But her nanny insists again, her voice rising slightly with emotion. She says the Tiwakans are unworthy of such beauty and grace. That presenting herself so finely is a gift wasted on them. Even so, the princess gently holds her ground. She tells her she understands her feelings but insists that Kleinfelter is no more. She is now promised to Lord Tiwakan, and it would be dishonorable to speak of the dead in a way that might insult her new betrothed. The nanny bows her head at last, though sorrow still clouds her eyes. Then the princess quietly reveals another truth: she is carrying a child. The nanny gasps, startled. But the princess urges her to remain calm, then asks how long it will take before the pregnancy becomes visibly apparent. Before an answer comes, a knock sounds at the door. A servant steps in, bowing swiftly, and announces that Lord Tiwakan has arrived at the city gates. Firmos informs the princess that they have brought the remains just as she requested, assuring her that no defilement was done. He adds that this act should be seen as a token of goodwill from their side, a small gesture of appreciation for her decision to accept the proposal. As she receives the remains, she reflects on how unusual it is for something so grim to be considered a first gift, but she offers her thanks nonetheless. Lord Tiwakan then suggests that they move on to discuss the wedding arrangements, reminding her that a full day has already passed. Once inside the palace, Firmos shares his thoughts, saying that neither side benefits from dragging the matter out. He points out that with winter approaching, their soldiers need to break camp soon and find shelter before conditions worsen. He also raises concern for the princess, stating that the marriage should take place quickly, for the sake of the child. Mashilo, startled by this, asks what child Firmos is referring to, insisting that he knows the princess had no such involvement with her previous suitor. He wants to know the origin of the child she supposedly carries. Just as she begins to respond, Tiwakan steps in, firmly stating that the child she will bring into the world shall be raised as his own. Under his name, the child will be protected and his right to the throne ensured. Princess finally grasps what he meant earlier, while Mashilo remains visibly unsettled by the unexpected turn. She understands that the situation is growing more reckless by the day, but retreating now is no longer an option. She realizes she must either feign a miscarriage at the right time or follow through and truly bear Tiwakan's child. That path, however, would mean sharing a bed with him as soon as possible and pretending to be someone experienced. But in truth, she has never done such a thing before. She doubts she can fool him. He may notice the inconsistency and realize there was never a child to begin with. Firmos stresses the importance of completing the marriage within 2 weeks. If they delay any longer, it will become impossible to hide the truth of the pregnancy. But Tiwakan disagrees, saying 2 weeks feels rushed. He expresses his wish to personally oversee the details of her wedding attire and insists that she should not trouble herself with any preparations. When he asks whether there are other reasons for postponement, the princess confesses that it is a matter of finances. Their current situation does not allow them to host a wedding on such short notice. Upon hearing that money is the issue, he promptly tells Firmos to hand over the box of coins sitting beside them. Firmos explains that the marriage contract will include a clause guaranteeing the rulership of Nauk to the child the princess will bear. In return, the Tiwakan pledges loyalty to Nauk, effectively becoming the kingdom's royal guard. Mashilo immediately doubts whether the gold given to them could cover the cost of hiring an entire army as the royal guard. Firmos reassures him that his lord will personally cover all expenses. Princess wonders why Tiwakan would agree to such a deal, one that brings no clear benefit to him and even seems humiliating. If his forces become her soldiers, Nauk would rise as the strongest fortress among the 5 southern kingdoms, a sure guarantee of survival alongside her child's claim to the throne. She finds his terms almost too favorable to be true, but Firmos insists there is no reason to deceive the princess. Still, she suspects there must be hidden motives behind his generosity. She tells him that no sensible person would desire such a barren and impoverished land. Firmos counters that there will always be those who want to invade, whether for the land itself or for her. After that, Firmo suggests they discuss accommodations for the Tiwakan army in detail with her attendants, and they leave. Once alone, the princess proposes a walk, and Tiwakan agrees. She suggests heading to the castle's garden at the back. As they walk, she notices how large he is, his arms impressively solid, and wonders if that is why she feels so tense around him. He asks if she has been neglecting to apply medicine to her wounds, noticing more scars on her palm. Curious, he questions what caused the latest injury and urges her to take better care of herself. Then, with a gentle seriousness, he declares that from now on every one of her wounds will be his responsibility. He kisses her palm for a moment, but she quickly pulls away, insisting she's fine. When he asks why she refuses his care, she simply wants to continue their walk. Quietly, she thinks to herself that he is the most dangerous threat she faces. She wonders if he would find it mocking that she suggests a stroll in such a garden, once beautiful but now just all Nauk has to offer. When he asks if something is wrong, she admits she regrets asking for a walk somewhere so dull. He counters that the garden is not little or insignificant, especially because she is there. She wonders if he means it's bearable with her by his side. Suddenly, without warning, he tells her to freeze. Before she can react, he pulls her aside as an arrow flies toward them. It strikes his shoulder, and immediately she screams his name as he leans heavily on her. The soldiers come running toward them, their faces etched with concern as they ask if he is all right. Their eyes catch a figure standing by a distant window, and one soldier orders that the man must not be allowed to escape. He commands that the stranger be brought to him alive. Meanwhile, she quickly decides to assist and suggests they move inside without delay, believing it would be safer within the palace walls. She forces herself to stay calm, knowing that if she panics, he might assume this was a deliberate ambush orchestrated by Nauk. Her hands tremble slightly as she reassures him that this attack has nothing to do with her or their kingdom. Still trying to explain, she feels his arms wrap gently around her, and he asks why she's trembling so much. She answers that he is on the verge of collapsing any moment now. He nods, urging her that they should walk back slowly together. Once inside, Mashallo cannot keep quiet and voices his surprise at the situation. He insists the princess take a seat, but she declines, insisting she is fine. Concerned, she asks how severe the injury is, and Mashallo replies that while it is not fatal, the wound is deep and undoubtedly painful. Thankfully, he adds, the arrow was not poisoned. Whereas mentions that Nauk's guards have already begun pursuing the attacker, but Mashallo notes they would have secured an antidote immediately if poison had been involved. Mashallo then points out that the person behind the attack is a much bigger threat. Firmos chimes in, saying he would like to believe that this arrow is not representative of some deeper hidden intentions. Whereas takes offense to this and questions whether Firmos is implying that their land lacks honor. Princess quickly cuts in, telling him to stop. She firmly states that while some may oppose their union, those individuals do not speak for her people. Their land seeks peace above all, and breaking the terms of the marriage is something they do not wish for. Whereas asks if Firmos shares this mindset, and he confirms that his resolve remains firm. Finally, Firmos requests royal permission to assign the Tiwakan army to investigate who masterminded the attack. Whereas reacts with surprise, noting that their own guards are already handling the matter. Firmos clarifies that he means no disrespect, addressing Whereas respectfully as Knight Commander, and insists that as sworn royal guards of the House of Arsac, it is their duty to uncover the truth as well. Meanwhile, she wonders if this is how things are going to be from now on, but in the end, she decides to accept it. A few minutes later, she sits quietly beside the bed, watching him as he sleeps. Her maid gently urges her to get some rest, but she replies that she owes this to him and that these are precarious times for both of them. The maid points out that he probably won't even know she's there because of the fever he's running. She thinks to herself that they weren't exaggerating about his fever. Despite the wound, he seemed so composed and she had believed he'd be all right. But now she realizes it's only because he's so accustomed to pain, like someone who's been struck by countless arrows before. She hands the maid something to wipe his sweat, and the maid takes it, but nervously asks how the princess could agree to marry a man she can't even bear to touch. The princess sharply mentions the maid's name and tells her to choose her words carefully. They are not alone. Then she explains that it's not that she can't bear to touch him. She asks the maid to hand her the cloth, saying she will do it herself. The maid leaves to fetch some more water. As she tends to him, she notes that touching him feels uncomfortable yet somehow different. She admits to herself that she doesn't hate him, but at the same time she does. She wonders why he makes her feel this way and concludes it might simply be that she feels uneasy. Suddenly he speaks up, saying he doesn't find her uneasy at all. He adds that if she doesn't find touching him unbearable, then how much does it really trouble her? She is startled to realize he's been awake all along. She asks how much he overheard, and he replies it was the part he spoke about earlier. Then he gently touches her face and asks if it's all right. He admits he wants to understand what she can't bear, but she tells him to rest since his fever is high and it would be better if he takes some medicine. He ignores her and leans in closer, continuing to touch her. Soon she tells him it's enough. She reminds him that he asked her to accept his proposal while she was forced to say goodbye to her lover, yet he still expects her to show affection and passion as if they were already lovers. He answers that he isn't entirely sure what he wants, but he knows he can't lose her to anyone else. Then he asks if a kiss would be too much, and she says yes. He insists she can't refuse him forever. He's no longer just a suitor but her betrothed. He then wonders what he should do to earn her permission. She thinks to herself that whatever his intentions, their union will benefit her people, and she doesn't want all his promises to become empty words on paper. Still, she considers that his judgment might be clouded by fever. So she asks him to promise her one thing: if he seeks to claim Nauk, he should do so to truly possess it but nothing more. She makes him swear not to break or destroy it. He asks what she will offer in return for that promise. She replies that in return she will ensure their marriage is no illusion but something real and lasting, and she pledges to long for him with all her heart. He accepts without hesitation, pulls her close and kisses her deeply. Then he confesses that he would have done so from the very start if she had truly intended to destroy him. But she doubts his words. She thinks this is all the fever talking, that his lust and passion will fade once the fever finally subsides. She knows deep down that she is merely using the fleeting warmth of his illness, so she quietly decides to stop, even though she doesn't know how far she might have let his fever serve as an excuse. So, with a soft voice, she tells him to forgive her, admitting that she had forgotten he was unwell. Then she gently rises to take her leave, deciding it's best to let him rest. As she steps out, she wishes him a quick recovery, and he responds quietly but firmly that he will get better soon, because now, he no longer needs to use his fever as an excuse. Now, walking down the hallway, she silently hopes that he keeps his promises. Even after he sees through her lies, she wishes he will desire her all the same. Meanwhile, as Whereas paces the area near the palace, he notices the exact spot where the arrow had come from. His eyes catch something lying on the ground. Curious, he picks it up and wonders aloud who it might belong to. He quickly returns to the palace, where the princess is waiting, and questions what brought him back at such an unusual hour. He lowers his voice, warning her to be careful because someone might be following him. From his pocket, he pulls out the small object and asks if she recognizes it. She peers closely and replies, "It's Kleinfelter's tassel." Whereas nods and explains that it might have fallen recently. He adds that they found it while tracking the person responsible for the attack. She realizes the gravity of the situation and says quietly, "That means the one who shot the arrow was no other person but Kleinfelter." Princess stands quietly, gazing intently at the tassel in her hand, her mind clouded with thoughts of Kleinfelter. Suddenly, Whereas enters the room and asks gently if she is all right. Without looking up, she replies that she isn't. Still staring at the object, she finally voices the question that has been troubling her: is there any chance that Kleinfelter might still be alive? Whereas answers carefully, suggesting that someone else could simply be using his bow. But something doesn't sit right with her. Together, they go to verify Kleinfelter's remains, only to discover a startling truth: the person in the helmet is not him. That can only mean one thing: Kleinfelter is indeed alive. She recalls the arrow from earlier, and everything suddenly starts to make sense. Seems he might be planning to fight from the shadows. Whereas agrees with her assessment, speculating that he could be hiding under the protection of the Grand Counselor, his own uncle. He suggests that they send a letter to inform the necessary parties, but before he can finish, Firmos appears. He walks in calmly, greets them, and raises a brow as he asks why they are in a restricted area. His tone sharpens slightly as he questions whether this is something important enough to be reported to his lordship. Princess answers without hesitation. She explains that she came to say her final goodbye. With the ceremony happening tomorrow, this is her only chance. She adds that she and Lord Tiwakan have both vowed that their union will be sincere and genuine, so parting from her past openly is something she must do. Firmos tilts his head and asks whether she simply wanted privacy to bid farewell to her former lover. When she responds by asking if there's anything wrong with that, he smiles and says he'll be sure to relay this meeting to his lordship. As she walks away, she hopes he truly believes her. Whereas turns to her and asks softly what she intends to do about the wedding. She knows she must choose, whether to trust in a lover's devotion or yield to the fevered passion of another. The House of Kleinfelter would protect its heir at all costs, while Tiwakan would not hesitate to tear them down. She weighs her options, honoring a loyal heart and risking the consequences, or aligning with Tiwakan to secure Nauk's future. Her thoughts turn urgent. The need to act swiftly rises within her. She tells Weraz that preparations with the bereaved family must begin immediately, requesting that he seek permission for her to meet them without delay. He agrees but raises a concern. If the family grows suspicious, things might not go as smoothly. Elsewhere in the castle, Firmos is already in audience with his lordship. He lays out his observations with quiet certainty. The one struck by the arrow, he believes, was not Kleinfelter. The armor on the body does not match the commander's, especially the helmet. It all seemed hastily arranged, as though someone had swapped the gear to deceive them. A knowing smile curves Firmos' lips. His lordship likely suspects the truth already. He suggests that Kleinfelter might have slipped back into the castle, an unexpected move considering the chaos that had unfolded. But perhaps Kleinfelter still clings to hope, not merely of surviving but of reclaiming the woman he loves. His lordship reflects on this possibility. Seems plausible that Kleinfelter is planning to run off with the princess. Firmos doubts it would succeed. Princess has responsibilities in Nauk, and she wouldn't abandon them so easily. As the conversation continues, Firmos points out that the arrow had to be shot by someone skilled, someone like Kleinfelter who knows his way around a bow. He questions whether his lordship could have avoided the shot, or if perhaps he had allowed it to strike him for a reason. No reply comes. Just a smile. Firmos interprets the silence with growing disbelief. Allowing himself to be wounded just to accelerate Nauk's conquest, it seemed too much. The healing would be long and grueling. But then his lordship speaks, revealing what lies beneath his calm. The arrow could have struck the princess. Firmos falters. The concern in his lordship's voice is unexpected. Only days ago, he had claimed he merely wanted to possess her. Had something changed? No, surely not. Perhaps it's just that she remains useful to his plans. If harm came to her now, everything might unravel. He shifts the conversation again, noting that while the princess may still believe Kleinfelter is gone, she is not beyond betrayal. He suggests a bold course, rooting out the entire Kleinfelter family before they can reach her. But his lordship remembers a vow. Princess had asked him to take Nauk, but not destroy it. If he honored that, she promised to long for him fully with all her heart. That memory halts the idea before it can take root. He declines the suggestion, confident that the princess's true feelings would eventually come to light. Firmos accepts the decision but offers to continue his quiet investigation throughout the castle. He is reminded to proceed with discretion. Once Firmos departs, his lordship is left in silence. He places a hand on his shoulder as his mind drifts to the image of the princess in Kleinfelter's arms. Jealousy, frustration, and regret churn within him. The weight of restraint presses down. A single thought rises: the opportunity he had to eliminate Kleinfelter had passed. And now, the consequences of that hesitation may soon follow. Early the next morning, the princess walks silently through the hallway, dressed in a flowing black gown and a matching veil, fully prepared for the day's solemn event. As she moves, she stumbles briefly and pauses, puzzled by how the fabric clings to her legs. A thought crosses her mind: perhaps she's lost more weight than she realized. There's no time to have a new dress made, but she knows that if this continues, none of her clothes will fit her for much longer. With a sigh, she continues down the corridor, her steps leading toward Lord Tiwakan's chamber. Doubts begin to rise within her. Will he lose interest in her now that she looks pale and fragile? But then again, he was never drawn to her for her appearance, at least that's what she tells herself. She takes a deep breath as she nears the door, a tray of his breakfast in her hands. The knowledge that Kleinfelter is alive weighs heavily on her. She wonders if she'll be able to face Lord Tiwakan without giving anything away. Would he think back to that heated night, to the vows they exchanged? How is she supposed to pretend none of it lingers in her mind? She knows she cannot avoid him forever. Gathering her courage, she knocks gently and asks if he is awake. No answer comes. Relief washes over her. Perhaps he's still asleep. She decides to leave the meal by the door. As she bends down to set the tray down, the door suddenly swings open. Lord Tiwakan stands before her with a faint smile. She's caught off guard, though she tries not to show it. He seems amused, perhaps at her startled expression. She quickly explains her intention to assist with his breakfast, mindful of his injured arm. He offers to carry the tray himself, claiming it's not too heavy, but she insists on helping, unwilling to let him strain his shoulder further. His gaze lingers, and he remarks that he's been worried about her too. Confused, she wonders why he would be, given that he's the one recovering from an injury. But then he glances down, his concern apparently directed at her appearance, specifically her dress. Before she can respond, Firmos appears abruptly, his voice cutting through the quiet. He asks, somewhat pointedly, if that is the only dress she owns. The presence of another makes it clear that she's intruded on company. Though he tries to excuse the question, he continues, pressing on why she chose that particular gown. Her mind circles back to Lord Tiwakan's earlier remark about her dress. Perhaps they think it looks too loose, a sign of her fading form. Till it feels unfair. After all, his lordship himself is often barely dressed, though granted, that is due to his injury. She apologizes, explaining that she knows the dress is a bit too large, but she has no alternative. Mourning attire is required until the ceremony is over, and there hasn't been enough time to make something new. Firmos questions whether she truly plans to wear it for the next 3 days. She immediately responds by asking if her outfit violates any of the Tiwakan standards. Firmos wonders if her mind is ever on anything besides her kingdom. He knows she isn't deliberately drawing attention, and he is well aware that his lordship isn't one to be easily swayed by appearances. Still, he feels the attire is excessive. He mutters that it is inappropriate for his lordship to be exposed to such a sight. Before he can say more, his lordship interjects, instructing him to remain silent. If the princess's appearance troubles him so much, he is told to avert his gaze or simply take his leave. Firmos sighs, mentions that he hopes the morning event doesn't drag on too long, and after apologizing, turns to go. As he walks away, he asks the princess to take good care of his lordship. Left alone, the princess silently questions whether her appearance is truly that bad. She never intended to look unkempt. Perhaps if she had gained a little weight, the dress might fit her better. But she catches herself. Why should she care about how she looks to a man who stripped Nauk of its peace? Yes, perhaps the peace would not have lasted much longer, but it would have been preferable to this. She asks whether he would prefer to eat first or have his wound treated. He says he wants the bandages changed and begins to remove his shirt. She studies him quietly. His fever has clearly broken, and his eyes now appear sharp again. But his face is unreadable, cold, exactly the way it has always been. There is no sign that anything happened between them on that night when they made vows to each other. She requests permission to unwrap the bandage and notices immediately that it looks freshly done, almost as though it has already been changed. She remarks that there may be no need to disturb it again and asks if he has simply applied a fresh layer of medicine. He tells her to change it anyway, unless she's reluctant to touch him. His words take her by surprise, and she wonders if he was really siding with her a few minutes ago or if she merely imagined it. Till she agrees to go ahead. As she carefully peels away the bandage, she wonders whether he truly intends to keep the promise they made, and if she herself is expected to keep hers. It seems strange that he would ask her to tend a wound that's already been dressed, but she continues regardless. Touching him doesn't make her uneasy in the least. Elsewhere in the castle, Kleinfelter stands motionless, staring out at nothing. His thoughts are fixed on Princess Liene. He silently pleads for her to hold on just a little longer. Her name escapes his lips as he calls out to her softly, his voice lost in the wind. While still tending to Lord Tiwakan's wounds, the princess finds her mind drifting back in time. She remembers a moment not so long ago when Klinefelter suffered similar injuries, scratches from branches during a reckless ride through the woods. The memory comes vividly. Madame Flambert had been the one to care for him then, gently applying salves and wrapping the wounds with precision, assuring them both that not even the faintest scar would remain. She recalls how Klinefelter had clung to her during the dressing, his body trembling as he pressed his face into the sleeve of her gown. He had whispered repeatedly that it hurt, his voice fragile like that of a frightened child. His arms wrapped around her as if she were the only thing anchoring him to safety. Time has indeed moved quickly since then. The warmth of that memory contrasts sharply with the cold presence now seated before her. She is pulled abruptly back to the present by Lord Tiwakan's voice. He asks whether she had the chance to confirm the identity of the body. A chill runs through her spine and beads of sweat gather at her temples. It's clear he knows the truth. She responds carefully, saying that she had only gone to the chapel to offer her final respects. But he doesn't seem convinced. He tells her that now what remains is for her to keep the promise she made, because, he says, he wants clarity. The words echo in her mind. She remembers Femus asking her if the man in the coffin was truly her lover, and how, as they were leaving, he had commended her if her intentions were genuine. Everything clicks into place now. Lord Tiwakan knows. He knows the body they buried wasn't Klinefelter's. And though his tone is calm, his message is not romantic. It is a warning cloaked in courtesy. For their union to be accepted, for their marriage to be more than just ceremony, she must cut all ties with Klinefelter. She draws a deep breath and responds with quiet resolve. She too desires clarity. She is ready to leave her past behind as she had once promised. Her decision is made. If she chooses her former lover, she knows exactly what that path would lead to, a war that neither she nor Klinefelter can win, a destruction that would ultimately consume Nauk itself. That is a price she is unwilling to pay. For the sake of her people and her country, she must stand with Lord Tiwakan. He tells her he wasn't expecting this to be a sign of her commitment, but he isn't displeased, far from it. He even adds that the same could be said of her dress. She gently asks him to release her hand and only then realizes she's been pressing down on his injury. Startled, she apologizes, saying her mind was elsewhere. He assures her that he felt no pain because his mind was elsewhere too. She looks at him and notices the warmth in his lips, the same shade of red as last night. She finds herself liking the way he looks at her with such passion, but quickly stops herself. Why is she thinking like this? Turning away, she remarks that it doesn't seem like he needs help with the meal after all. She wishes him well and takes her leave. Afterward, the princess begins making plans to meet Klinefelter. Whereas protests, pointing out that visiting him at this hour will only stir suspicion. She assures him she'll come up with an excuse if anyone finds out. Whereas warns her again, the head of Tiwakan might discover everything and she needs to be cautious. Then she breaks the news, they already know Klinefelter is alive. Whereas is stunned. How? He reminds her that they don't even know what Klinefelter looks like. She explains that they figured it out because the helmet didn't match the armor on the body, and from that detail alone they knew. Both Lord Tiwakan and his right-hand man are far too smart. She recalls how Tiwakan had held his sword when revealing this, and she now understands. He must have known from the beginning. That's what makes him the commander of an undefeated army. She starts to wonder how much more they know. She must stay sharp and act swiftly. Whereas asks why she's visiting Klinefelter. She replies that she's going to tell him to run. If she doesn't explain the severity of the situation, he won't understand. This is the best option for both Nauk and Klinefelter himself. Whereas asks if she's truly giving up on Klinefelter. She answers honestly. Though Lord Tiwakan has been gentle and even forgiving lately, she doubts he or his men will allow Klinefelter to live. And Grand Counselor Lyndon Klinefelter and his family will never surrender either. That's why she has to warn them, so this endless struggle can finally end. He points out that if she does this, she'll be bound to Tiwakan forever. She nods, already aware. But they both know she has no other choice. Whereas is about to say something when Lady Flambert enters, announcing that the princess's travel cloak is ready. She freezes, stunned at the sight of the princess in that dress. She asks if she truly plans to wear it as mourning attire. Princess's mind drifts. This is the third time someone has criticized her dress. She explains softly that it's the only mourning cloth she has. Lady Flambard asks if she really thinks it's that bad. But then, to the princess's surprise, the lady responds that it's quite the opposite. It's not bad at all. She's taken aback. Lady Flambard continues, saying it's been 5 years since the princess last wore that garment. She's grown since then, and now it looks more like a gown for a wedding night. It's a good thing she arrived early. She can't imagine what those barbarians might say if they saw her in that dress. The princess swallows hard. They've already seen her in the dress. Lady Flambard continues, saying Lord Tiwakan always looks at her like he wants to swallow her whole. Embarrassed, the princess quickly interrupts, insisting the dress is a little loose but not revealing. Flambard disagrees, saying all her curves are clearly outlined. Flustered, the princess turns to Whereas and asks if he's seen her in it all this time and said nothing. Scratching his head, he replies that the princess is always beautiful and he didn't really notice the dress. Typical of a dense man like him, he wouldn't understand these things. They continue on their way. As the horses move steadily beneath them, the princess reflects on the earlier events. She never imagined that dress looked so suggestive. Of course, Lady Flambard eventually made her change. There was no way that outfit could be worn out in public. Still, a lingering thought gnaws at her. Did Lord Tiwakan think she wore it on purpose? To seduce him? As they ride, they spot Tiwakan soldiers scattered along the roads. Whereas explains that they're still searching for the person who fired the arrow. But the princess knows better. They're using it as an excuse to map every path in Nauk. A disturbing thought crosses her mind. What if he let the arrow hit him on purpose? Whereas replies that if the plan had succeeded, things would have ended differently. Princess agrees. By now, there would have been no one left in Nauk. They arrive at the Kleinfelter residence. Whereas rides forward and announces the arrival of Princess Liene, ordering the gates to be opened. The heavy gates swing open and they enter the grounds. From a distance, Sir Kleinfelter sees her approaching. Grand Chancellor Lyndon Kleinfelter narrows his eyes and asks if the princess has come to deliver the news herself. She confirms it with a nod, noting inwardly that not a trace of sorrow touches his expression. That alone tells her he must know his nephew is still alive. She proceeds to inform him of the upcoming marriage, stating that it will take place in 2 weeks. She adds that his attendance will be seen as a gesture of goodwill, especially from Nauk's most prominent family. He scoffs at the suggestion, asking if she's truly requesting he attend the wedding of his enemy. With a sneer, he remarks that she must have lost her mind, and that accepting such a proposal proves it. She responds firmly, stating that she hasn't lost her mind. On the contrary, rejecting the proposal would have been insanity. Rising to her feet, she tells him to begin preparations for the funeral, as she has delivered her message. As she speaks fondly of his nephew, he cuts her off with biting sarcasm, asking if she should not be avenging her late betrothed instead. He questions whether her head is incapable of proper thinking. Her tone sharpens as she warns him to choose his words carefully. It is easy, she says, for him to sit in hiding with his soldiers while her guards are the ones expected to lay down their lives. He retorts coldly, asking if she's truly trying to claim that offering herself to the barbarians somehow serves the good of her land. His voice hardens as he accuses her of having planned to toy with his nephew from the very beginning. To him, it's cheap and despicable. Without hesitation, she lifts a small flower vase and lets it fall, the sound of shattering porcelain cutting through the tension. He barely flinches, only commenting on her temper with amusement. She meets his gaze, voice low but forceful, and tells him to pass on a message. If he wants Nauk to survive, he must cast aside his personal grudges and leave. He scoffs again, remarking that she has grown arrogant in just a few short years. He tells her to keep running her mouth, claiming she's nothing and can do nothing on her own. She throws back a sharp line about how she should have aimed the vase at his head instead of the floor. He laughs and tells her to save her temper for the barbarians, then cruelly asks if Lord Tiwakan has already taken her to bed and humbled her. Her hand clenches, but she holds herself back, breathing hard. That's enough, she says tightly. Just then, Kleinfelter steps into the room. Kleinfelter's uncle is surprised to see him and reminds him that he was told to stay away. Ignoring this, Kleinfelter warns his uncle to stop speaking disrespectfully to Princess Liene, making it clear he won't tolerate such behavior. His uncle accuses the princess of betrayal and calls his nephew a fool, insisting she isn't worth it. After the uncle leaves, Kleinfelter checks on Liene, gently embracing her and calling her his. He apologizes for failing to protect her, explaining that the kingdom of Shurka refused to send reinforcements and that he kept her waiting. Liene urges him to flee before Lord Tiwakan discovers his hiding place. When he asks if he should go alone, she confirms that it's the only way to protect everyone. She reveals that she is to marry Lord Tiwakan. Kleinfelter is shocked and accuses her of abandoning them. Liene, thinking he is naive, remains firm in her resolve to sacrifice anything for her land. She explains that neither House Arsac nor House Kleinfelter can defeat Lord Tiwakan at this point. Enraged, Kleinfelter accuses her of foolishness, claiming she is handing over her land and herself on a silver platter. As emotions flare, he grabs her shoulders, demanding an explanation for Tiwakan's presence in Nauk. When she asks what he means, he reveals a long-held secret. Lord Tiwakan's entire family was massacred by someone from Nauk, and he's been plotting revenge ever since. Despite Kleinfelter's revelation about Lord Tiwakan seeking revenge, Princess Liene isn't convinced. She reasons that if Tiwakan truly wanted vengeance, he would have declared war, not proposed marriage. She recalls his earlier words, that if he wanted to destroy her land, he would have done it already. She then mentions the many false rumors surrounding Lord Tiwakan, including one claiming he prefers men. Kleinfelter bitterly asks how she knows that isn't true, and accuses her of already inviting Tiwakan into her bed. Liene tells him to stop speaking to her that way, reminding him that he has no right to question her relationship with her betrothed. Hurt, Kleinfelter questions how she can say such things to him and insists he cannot simply walk away. As she turns to leave, she sarcastically asks if he plans to shoot another arrow. She warns him that if it's confirmed he fired the last one, the house of Kleinfelter will be destroyed, and her land will face even more bloodshed. Again, she urges him to run. Kleinfelter stops her and begs her to answer just one question, whether she has feelings for Lord Tiwakan. Taken aback, she tries to avoid answering, but he insists. She pushes him away and says he's more violent than she ever imagined. Then, she declares that breaking things off with him and accepting the proposal are one and the same, both done for the sake of Nauk. Her land will always come first. She then firmly commands him to leave, now as a royal order, and walks away. She quietly acknowledges that while she doesn't harbor dislike for him, and had once promised to long for him, that's truly all there is. The proposal was born from blood, a union without space for genuine emotion. She reminds herself that such feelings should never be entertained in the first place. As she walks further down the corridor, she notices 2 guards stationed near the door and approaches them. Upon asking about Wera's whereabouts, one of them gives a vague response, claiming ignorance. She's immediately puzzled. He had been there just moments ago. His sudden absence makes little sense. Calling out for him yields no result, and a subtle unease begins to settle over her. She had clearly instructed him to remain there. Now, standing alone within the estate and without any protection, the weight of her vulnerability presses down. Despite the situation, she composes herself and insists that the guards open the door. She needs to leave. Instead of complying, they cross their swords in front of the entrance, preventing her passage. Confusion flashes across her face, and she demands to know what they mean by such an action. Their only explanation is that they are under orders to prevent her departure. She challenges their defiance, reminding them of her identity, and attempts to push forward to open the door herself. Just then, Grand Chancellor Lynden Kleinfelter arrives, drawn by the commotion. He questions what's going on, but she turns it around, implying that the question should be directed at him instead. He calmly explains that, after careful consideration, he cannot allow her to leave. His reasoning is simple and cold. He refuses to stand by while she prepares to hand their nation over to what he considers foreign invaders. In his view, no true Kleinfelter would permit such betrayal. As the situation escalates, Cardinal Milode makes a sudden appearance. The princess, confused, questions why he isn't at the temple and whether he's come to prepare for the requiem. But before she can get more answers, Lynden Kleinfelter steps in and reveals his true intention. He brought the cardinal not for a funeral but to officiate a wedding. Startled, the princess demands to know who the bride and groom are meant to be. Lynden calmly declares that she is to wed his nephew, the supposed heir. Dawns on her that she had underestimated their willingness to use underhanded tactics. She bitterly realizes that while she feared the Tiwakan, it's Klinefelter and his household who have posed the greater threat all along. She regrets coming with minimal security, now seeing how vulnerable she truly is. When she asks if the heir has even agreed to this madness, Lyndon coldly reminds her that the heir is dead. Instead, he reveals the groom to be his cousin Lopez, a bastard child she likely never met. With no other Klinefelter heir alive, they've decided to make do with whoever's available. Lyndon even attempts to reassure her, saying Lopez bears an uncanny resemblance to the late heir. Princess pleads with them not to go through with this, warning that it could endanger Nauk. But her words are brushed aside. Then Lopez introduces himself formally. She recognizes him and cries out his name. Unfazed, he declares that taking her as his bride is a dream come true and that he hopes she'll accept him with the same joy. But she firmly rejects him, stating that whatever existed between them ended long ago, and that forcing her into this marriage won't change that. As she tries to pull away, Lopez grabs her and leans in, insisting that she will become his wife no matter what. When she pushes him away again, he covers her mouth to silence her, telling her to be still just for a moment. Cardinal Millode then begins the wedding ceremony, with Klinefelter insisting that he'll recite the vows on her behalf. Helpless, she struggles to speak, her pleas ignored by everyone around her. Suddenly, a loud bang echoes from the gate. Klinefelter instructs the guards to ignore it and continue the ceremony. But the pounding only grows louder. When the guards hesitate, Klinefelter finally orders them to check it out. Meanwhile, the gate begins to crack under pressure. A deep voice from outside demands that the doors be opened, and inside, the princess recognizes it instantly. It's Lord Tiwakan. Side, Firmos informs Tiwakan that it seems they're not being welcomed in. Tiwakan responds without hesitation, commanding his men to break the gate down. Enjoying this story so far? Comment part 2 below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, ciao.